Welcome, welcome. Hello, hello. I am Coach Rebecca Tabert, and today I'm going to share with you how to overcome some of your biggest fitness obstacles. So, I asked this question on my social media feeds, specifically, what is or has been your biggest challenge, your biggest obstacle, your biggest block when it comes to reaching your fitness goals or your weight loss goals? And the responses that I received, to be honest, were not a surprise to me. I've been a coach for 13 years. I have my own transformation story 20 years ago, and many of the things that came up are things that I experienced myself and or are very common within the people that I've worked with before working together. So I'm going to dive right in. I'm going to share the top obstacles, and then I'm also going to share with you at the very end the one thing not mentioned, which for me and for my clients has proven to be the foundational difference between being able to just move the scale weight, which is an accomplishment, right? But no one wants to find it again, right? That is not a lost and found you want to go to. When you do the work and you lose the 20 pounds, the 50 pounds, the 75 pounds, either through diet or exercise, or I've had clients come to me that have gone through, I want to say, the torture of weight loss surgeries, right? Really extreme measures. And yet the weight still comes back on. And the solution is not one of the most common obstacles that people think of or that they are aware of, right? So if you don't know the root cause that is really keeping you from being able to not just get started, but then to actually see the momentum, keep it going, and make a true lifestyle shift, then you will end up more than likely the same place a year from now than you are today. And I don't want that for you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So make sure you stay to the very end so that you can understand the critical difference that allows all things to be sustainable. Fair enough? So as I'm going through today, feel free to type some comments below. I am live on a couple of different channels today. So if I don't get to your questions during this live, then I will be sure to circle back and respond directly or create a future video training. But make sure that there's no question that is too small. For those of you that don't know and you're newer to me, I am first and foremost, daughter and chosen child of God, which I'm super, super thankful for, but it's not always been that way. I'm also somebody who has had the experience of being an overweight, atheist, corporate girl turned Jesus loving, then completely transformed my own body, which had this huge ripple effect. So I've been cultivating being fiercely fit in mind, body, and spirit over the last 20 years now. And I've been an entrepreneur for the last 13 years. So in that, there's a lot of life, a lot of experiences, and it's been my honor and pleasure to having coached others through their transformation for over a decade now. So I'm going to share some of that with you today. So the first question, or I should say the first obstacle that sometimes comes up for people, is they feel like they don't have time. And whether you've been with me for a long time, you maybe have heard this from me in the past, but I encourage you to lean in again, because as one of my mentors says often, sometimes we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. And a lot of times when we think about these challenges, they aren't the actual obstacle. The obstacle is the belief that we hold. So, for example, when we say that we don't have time, I want to invite you to consider and that we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And so, for those of you, many of the people that follow me, I know and are connected with me in some way, you are strong, you are driven. And so, you've heard that analogy multiple times. It's not new to you that we all have the same 24 hours in the day. It's how we choose to spend our time. However, when it comes to our own sense of health and well being, we still can, until we are aware of it, fall into that thought pattern that I don't have time. And I'm here to tell you, one, that's part of the challenge that society or diet culture or a lot of the fit pros have created this assumption or this perception, I should say, that it has to take a lot of time. It truly logistically does not need to take a lot of time. And also, when we decide something is important enough, we make the time. So it's not that you don't have time. And if you feel like that, if that has been one of your reasons, I also want to caveat here that I am a truth loving coach. And I know that because we are connected, you are strong, you are driven, you are powerful, which also means sometimes the people in your immediate circle aren't going to be as truthful with you because they're a little intimidated by you, right? And or they have the same blind spots, right? Because a lot of times we are a reflection of the people that we spend the most time with. So in this example, when it comes to getting healthy and fit, most of the people that I've worked with over the last 13 years, over a decade, they're the first in their friend group. They are the first in their family. They are first in their immediate circles to want to make a significant change when it comes to their health, their well-being, or weight loss. And so, therefore, the people in your immediate circle aren't going to have the frame of reference to be able to speak this level of truth into your life. And I will tell you that in my experience, the best, having heavily invested in myself over a decade, the best coaches I have ever had for any aspect of life have been the truth telling coaches. So I want to honor you by being that person that speaks truth in your life. If you're not ready to receive that, then it's all good. I'm not the right coach for you. Fair enough? So when it comes to time and this belief that we don't have enough time, I invite you to think about the fact the last time you felt like you didn't have time for something, but then something happened and all of a sudden you made time because it became a must. And so I'm going to use one of the most obvious examples. I think a lot of us have that saying, and I know I've been guilty of this too, where it is when it comes to being sick, right? I've totally caught myself saying, I don't have time for that, right? As kind of a joke and a one off or what have you. But the reality is, many of us experienced the virus over the last couple of years at some point in time, and hopefully yours was mild. But even if it was mild, you then were forced to make the time because you didn't have a choice. It wasn't just a nice to have to lay low, to disconnect, to isolate yourself, right? And yet you made the time because you had to. It's not a fun example, but it's a very accurate example of when we absolutely must do something, when we've decided that it's a must, whether the must is impressed upon us or we decide intrinsically, internally that something is a must, then all of a sudden we have time for it, right? And so the next time you catch yourself saying, I don't have time, I invite you to say it's not that important, which isn't right or wrong, right? No one gets to judge how you invest your time. It's really about where you're at. And in order for you to get beyond where you're at in any aspect of life, you have to get a truthful look at where you are. You have to look at open those closets that you've been avoiding, look under the bed if you've been avoiding that, whatever it is, and get really honest with yourself about what's working, what's not working. Where am I telling myself stories that no longer serve me? And not having time is one of those things. I also hear that when it comes to like creating space and time to be quiet, be still, or connect with God, right? And the reality is, just like with taking care of yourself, you really can't afford not to. Because the end result of, for example, not making time for self care, and again, it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but the end result of not making time for it now means that eventually something is going to happen. It is going to catch up with you in some form or fashion. And when it catches up with you, you will be forced to make the time, right? People that I get to work with don't often have money objections, but it is the same thing when it comes to like, I don't, there's actually so much more to monies where they feel like if you catch yourself saying like, I can't afford to. Reality is you can't afford not to, because whether it's investing in coaching or gym membership or what's starting somewhere, right? There's tons of ways to get started and get moving without huge investments. And so if you are saying that you don't have time, you can't afford it, or what have you, the reality is you can't afford not to, because not taking care of yourself brings you to a place where your body is then not best positioned to be able to have a strong, healthy immune system, to be able to reduce your risk for disease, to be able to stay medication free for as long as possible as we age, to be able to enjoy a quality of life, right? I don't know about you, but I want to be 70, 80 years old, 90 years old, and be functionally independent, right? I don't want people having to take care of me. I'm grateful for all my friends and family, and I love them, and I know I'll be surrounded by amazing people, but I want to be fiercely independent well into my 80s and 90s. So in order, if that's a goal for you too, in order to get there, it starts now. You can't wait till then decide to do something. You get to plant the seeds now, today, right? The second thing that I hear often is that came up too is feeling intimidated to walk into a gym. So right now, this recording, we are at the new year, and a lot of people want to get started on something. This is a time of year by nature we start reflecting on goals, and health and fitness is one of them. Weight loss is one of the most popular goals as we start the new year. And oftentimes, someone will feel like they need to walk into a gym, or maybe you just want to be in a gym, but you feel intimidated. And this was true for me too. My personal story, when I started my health and fitness journey 21 years ago, honestly, I too had to get to the point where I was it was a literal bottom of the shower moment, where, as great of a mom as I thought I was, as okay as I told myself I was doing, and action takers are action takers, and so you get everything done for everybody else, right? For me, part of my story is that I was really struggling with emotional eating, so um, that was a factor. So I had literal bottom of the shower moment where my why was powerful enough that I decided something had to change. Right? As great of a mom as I thought I was, I knew that I was feeling uncomfortable in my body. I knew that I was really trying to mask feeling depressed and trying to manage being like all the feels for my son, which thankfully I was, but then just crashing when he would go to bed and all of those things. So for me, I initially started with videotapes, which I know some of you don't even know what that is, but videotapes was this thing that you plugged in the TV, and Tony Horton, even 20 years ago, was the man. And so that at least got me physically moving. So you for sure, and now of course you've got live streaming on YouTube. There's tons of free options, tons of options all over the place. So you don't have to walk into a physical gym. However, if you want to walk into a gym, like for me in my story, I started out at home, but I just knew I needed more accountability. I knew I needed more structure. Tony Horton wasn't showing up at my door if I didn't get a workout in, or it was really easy to hide. And like, have you ever eaten chips or like ice cream as you're watching? That was me. And so I decided to go into the gym. And this was what had come up recently when I asked the question again, was that somebody expressed that they feel uncomfortable. They feel uncomfortable in their body. They feel like everybody's kind of staring and judging them. 100% get it, because I had those same feelings and emotions. And in over the decade of me running my brick and mortar fitness business, I always met with people before they officially started the program. And it was one of the things that I would proactively share with them, is that when you can get in your car and you can get here. And I guarantee before you walk into the door, all of these emotions are going to hit you, and you're going to feel fear, and you're going to feel intimidated, and you're going to feel like people are staring at you or judging you. And I 100% guarantee they are too involved in their own workout. They're too involved in their own feelings and whatever's going on with them to be concerned about you, right? In our physical environment, we worked really hard to, like, one of our goals of our entire team was to be the healthy version of Cheers. However, it is also true that whatever you look for, you will find. So if you want to walk into a gym, whether it be, I call them big box gyms when it's like 24-hour EOS, Lifetime Fitness, whatever is by you. If you want to walk into one of those gyms, understand that assume that people are genuinely kind. They're genuinely also, though, just so absorbed in what they're trying to get done and or how they're feeling that they're really not concerned about you. And for the few, the very few that are, the whole Dr. Seuss quote comes to mind. Those who mind don't matter, those who matter don't mind, right? But if you look for people smiling, if you look for the people that are being nice, if you expect to receive that, if you expect to have a good experience, I don't have time to go into it today, but there's science behind that too. That is what you will see. That is what your brain will pick up on. That's what you'll process, the meaning that you'll give things. Whereas if you assume that you're being judged, if you assume that you're being criticized, you're going to see little things or like a movement or somebody's focused on something else and you're going to assume they're giving you a dirty look or they're judging how you feel or whatever, right? So what you look for, you expand. So if you want to walk into a physical gym, then I encourage you to just understand what is happening with your emotions, what's happening with your thoughts, and decide, choose courage to walk in. Choose courage to, even on the days, this is another thing, like consistency comes up a lot. So whether it's at home or you're going into a physical location, on the days that you don't feel like it, if it was on your calendar, you don't have to work out every day either. But if it was on your calendar, keep your commitment to yourself. Do not talk yourself out of it. You can use that same evil power of talking yourself out of it for good and talk yourself into it. And so maybe it's talking yourself into it one step at a time. Maybe it's just get in the gym, stretch for 5 minutes. You're done with your stretch. Okay, you're here anyway, so you might as well put in another 5 minutes. You're done with that 5 minutes. Okay, you might as well go on to the next 5 minutes, right? Choose to talk yourself into it. Choose to navigate and direct your beliefs, your thoughts, and your mindset over that and keep the commitments to yourself. The more times you break the commitments you've made to yourself, the more time you are subconsciously chipping away at your confidence, which is a whole nother topic that I don't have time to go into today. Or at least I do have time, but I'm not going to make the time, right? Catching my own words. So the third is sugar, right? People feel addicted to sugar. And I just want to say this, you are. It is a very real thing. One of the things I talk about too, as somebody who walked a very difficult path to overcome emotional eating, as somebody who walked a very difficult path of learning how to turn to God instead of turning to food when I felt stressed or emotional or whatever the case may be, and somebody who's really leaned into so many different aspects of that topic, both mental, emotional, as well as our physical response. It is very true that your body is responding differently to sugary foods and or what's called fast digesting carbohydrates. So fast digesting carbohydrates are going to be things like the cakes, the pastas, packaged processed food, all of those things. They are literally triggering. I haven't looked recently, but there for a while there was a brain scan that you could Google. I think it was like sugar on your brain or something like that, and it was a brain scan of somebody that had consumed sugar, high processed type, whatever I don't remember that it detailed, but it was just like, here's your brain on sugar versus here's your brain on crack cocaine, and all the same parts of the brain were lit up. Let me say that again. Sugar, crack cocaine, all the same parts of the brain were lit up. So no wonder you are struggling. It doesn't give you the immediate solution on how to overcome it. That's too much to go into today. However, I want to make you aware of that so that you don't feel as defeated, so that you can start leaning into how to overcome it, knowing that you can get to a point, living testimony, that you can get to a point where you can enjoy whatever your favorite might be, whether it's cookies or sugar, like a candy type of sugar, or the cake, or the whatever. One of the things that I teach my clients is how to change the relationship with food so that you can enjoy your favorite foods. Because this brings me to my next challenge. I've tried all the things and nothing works, and I don't know what to do next. All the things that you've tried were diets that were not sustainable. So then therefore, as you're going into the new year and you're seeing all of these like a dangling carrot or shiny objects for try this diet, try this magic pill or this magic potion, whatever it might be, understand that those are going to be temporary fixes. One of the reasons that they are temporary is because if the process that you choose to put your heart and effort and focus and energy into, because you're driven, you get things done, someone tells you to like, you have a roadmap that you think is going to work for you, you are on it, right? And so you can grin and bear it and follow it for a period of time. However, if that grin and bear it means that you're on some sort of pill or some sort of drink, or that you're super restrictive in what you can and can't eat for the rest of your life, you're not going to want to do that. And so, of course, the results are not going to be sustainable. So remove the insanity and understand that what you want to be looking for is a way to create a nutrition strategy that is actually going to work for you and the lifestyle you live, whether it's busy, travel, on the go, or you enjoy entertaining. Like one of my clients just loves entertaining, loves traveling, loves food, right? But by learning how to say, I don't have to give up all my sweets. I don't have to be the one that is like, no, I can't eat that. No, I'm not going to eat that, whatever, in the social events. She was able to navigate a new understanding of what that gets to look like for her, right? Based on the work that we got to do together. And her initial result was 25 pounds in 12 weeks. Not everybody's results are going to be the same, all of that. However, that was her result, right? And then when I get to work with clients, I'm building this nutrition strategy. And honestly, whether you work with me or what have you, it really determines whether or not, it depends on whether or not we are a mutual good fit for each other. I'm not for everybody, and that's totally cool. But I want you to understand that you're only going to continue the same cycle if you continue the same process, just looks a little different wrapper, right? So if you keep jumping from diet to diet, from pill to pill, from drink to drink, and I know some of those programs out there are driven by medical professionals, and like, I'm just going to say, just use your own wisdom and discernment. Is that something that you want to see yourself doing for the next 2 years, 3 years, right? I had another client that was on a system for 3 years. And yes, on that system, she lost a significant amount of weight. And also, by the time she discovered me and we started working together, she came with the intention of losing weight because her weight had started to creep back up, and she did not want to go back to where she was. And also, she was tired of trying to integrate or be restrictive to the food fuelings and all of this. She realized as a result of working together, it was a lot of food rules, right? A lot of restrictions that inhibited her. And also, because she had been following that system for so long, which also was very low caloric and a bunch of other things, her metabolism was all messed up. She was hardly eating and still not seeing any results, right? And yet, as a result of learning a nutrition strategy, learning a different approach, she then was able, her words were, I feel like I just have freedom, was the words that came to mind for her. Complete freedom. I didn't even realize how attached I was to the scale. I didn't even realize how crazy restrictive I was being on my food, and or how much I was beating myself up if I felt like I ate something off, and like something off could have been peanuts or like, it just was a very restrictive process that she had followed for so long. She had trained her mind and her body and didn't even realize the condition it had left her in. Make sense? So my heart for you is to not fall into another repetitive pattern this year of diet after diet, pill, whatever it might be, right? Understand that nutrition strategy, so that you can apply it as a lifestyle change, then creates lifestyle results. And the physical result is so far above and beyond the number on the scale. It is awesome when you get to, like, one of my other clients, like, kept sending me, which is awesome, like updates on her clothes size, and the fact that she would walk into a store and I don't know if she didn't have the patience or the time, but a lot of times she would just grab something thinking it was her size and then get home and realize it doesn't fit. right? Because it had become too big. It was a smaller size than what she had previously was wearing, and yet it was still too big, right? And so yes, that's an amazing feeling. But you also, when you get your health aligned, when you get to that point where you realize the impact food is playing on how you're feeling and your emotion and how you're showing up for yourself, your family, and your business every day, it has this ripple effect into all other things. Health truly is the tide that rises all ships, right? Let me go on to the next one. So, the next one of the systems that is out there, or I shouldn't say one of the systems, but one of the questions that has come up is about intuitive eating. And I exhale a little bit only because, and I don't mean that to be in a rude way, but it's the idea of intuitive eating drives me a little batty because what it doesn't take into consideration is that when you have years or decades of eating a certain way, your intuition is clearly not accurate. Let me say that again. And the reason I want to say that is not to be mean or rude or anything like that, but the reality is it is almost a disservice to imply that you should be able to do that. Why should you all of a sudden be able to intuitively eat when your thoughts and your beliefs that have been hard, like wired, right? One of the ways I explain it to clients is you've been building this trench, right? You've been digging out this trench for years or decades. The trench is all the thoughts and beliefs that you've previously held about your weight, about how you eat, about the relationship to food, about a lot of other things that are about you, your belief system, your thoughts, how you're responding versus reacting to other people, the meaning you're giving circumstances. There's a lot that has been hardwired, or these trenches have been dug really, really deep. So to think that you're going to be able to pick yourself up out of that trench and then all of a sudden just eat intuitively is not, it's not a concept that even makes sense when you think about it from that perspective. And the reason I'm sharing it with you is because I don't want you to feel like you've somehow failed because the diet didn't work for you, or but it worked for Susie, or it worked for Josie, or it worked for whoever. You don't know what's actually worked. You don't know how they're defining success. You don't know what that's going to look like for them a year or 2 years down the line, right? And same thing with the intuitive eating. It's okay if, like, you're not broken if that doesn't work for you. And that's another thing that comes up is people will say, well, XYZ diet worked for me until, no, 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 back it up. If there's an until, then it did not work for you. Because I don't know about you, but when I was wanting to lose weight, I told the first year or so, I would lose weight, put it back on, lose weight, put it back on. And so I get it. But my goal was not to lose weight and put it back on. My goal was to lose weight and keep it off for good. Right. And I'm going to assume that that's your goal too. And so it's just these little shifts in our understanding or the meaning that we're giving things to, so that you can be better equipped and empowered to do things differently this year, because you cannot repeat the same patterns and expect a different result. Make sense? And then last but not least, I'm looking at my notes to make sure. I think that's it. The one thing. So again, as you guys have questions, type them up below, or you're always free to you can email me at rebecca@rebeccatabert.com, or if you're on Facebook, you can send me a DM. Happy to answer any questions that I have not addressed. I'll either answer them directly or create content in the future, near future, and tag you there. The critical foundation of all of these things that isn't mentioned when people talk about obstacles and challenges, because of the fact that you don't know what you don't know. And it took me years to learn this, to understand it, so that then I could work on it and change, like truly make the change sustainable. And this was the difference between long after I was physically fit and looked healthy and looked well, I was still struggling with emotional eating behind the scenes. Not like totally behind the scenes, because I was transparent all through that, in that I would have shared that if I had struggled with anything, the thing that I still struggled with back then was the temptation to eat out of emotion, right? And the difference between struggling with emotional eating, for me, this was the thing that I'm about to share with you, was the catalyst that over time, my obviously my physique dramatically changed, life dramatically changed, my finances dramatically changed because you show up differently. It really is the health that navigates all, or the tide that rises all ships. And yet that lingering thing for me was the temptation to eat with a motive of emotion. And because of that, I realized that, or I thought for a period of time, that maybe this is just my cross to bear, right? Until God helped me see in another moment in the timing in which I'm sure He orchestrated a few years back, that that lingering attachment of turning to food instead of going to God, if it was stress or anxious or whatever emotion was that I was trying to numb, or it's not even a conscious thing until you become aware of it, right? That the motive for eating was not just out of I'm hungry, right? Every time I chose food for a motive other than being hungry, it was missed opportunities of going to God, missed opportunities of allowing God to be the source. And because of that, even though at that date and that time I had already created, I was already well into my entrepreneur journey. I think we were already several years into brick and mortar fitness business. I say we because it's me, God, and an amazing team that He helped me develop over time. Um, and all the things looked so good and so much success. And that's where many of you are at. You have all of this success. And yet, for this aspect of life, you still struggle when it comes to your own self-care, when it comes to your own sense of well-being and or the emotional eating, right? And that was true for me until God helped me realize that that was standing between me and the greatest potential of the unique purpose He has called me to live out. And when I realized that, combined with everything He had been teaching me over the years, plus my being able to coach and work with coaches and mentors and certifications and all of that combined up to that date is what then helped me take this a step further and understand that the foundation of it all, the ability to sustain true food freedom or sustained weight loss, a body that you feel amazing in, is based on our thoughts and our beliefs. As God's word says, it's one of my life verses. I went like this because it's on my arm. For as a man thinks, so is he. And so our thoughts and our beliefs are the driving foundation of all of these other things. And without identifying the thoughts and the beliefs that you have created that no longer serve you or have gotten you to where you are, that you no longer want to be, you have to identify what those are and learn how to replace them. And of course, I teach how to do that based on God's word. So I hope that that is making sense. I want to tell you this, and you can receive it if you're ready to receive it. It is, as one of my other clients said, it is nearly impossible to do that on your own. It is nearly impossible to do that on your own because of the fact that you have held those thoughts and those beliefs, which led to your choices. Choices repeated over time create the habits. That is what has created your current circumstance, your current result. So to get a new result, to try and reverse engineer it, to try and see it on your own, as my client said, is nearly impossible. And that specific client was a client who came to me after weight loss surgery, after doing the classwork, after having seen some success as a result of the surgery, but her weight started coming back on and coming on fast. And as a result of working together, she learned how to identify, I call it student of your mind and body, like understanding how to pay attention to how your body's responding, how your emotions are responding, the thoughts that you hold, right? that aren't serving you or don't align with God's word. And let me tell you, these thoughts are thoughts that you don't recognize because you've held them for so long. You believe them to be as true as the sky is blue. That's why I was looking away, because I'm looking out my window, right? I forget who the originally made that quote, but we question our beliefs except for those that we firmly hold to be true. So you don't see them as the obstacle that is holding you back. So with that, if you are, I hope that this was super helpful, regardless of where you're at in your journey. I hope that you enjoy a fantastic new year. I hope that you feel inspired to take action. Don't just watch the video, get all these feel goods and be like, yeah, I got this. Like, what action are you going to take as a result of investing your time in this video today, whatever you want to call it, right? What result do you plan to take? How are you going to apply this, right? And if you are a high achieving Christian entrepreneur who would love, or executive or what have you, usually I work with entrepreneurs and executives, but high achieving meaning like you're driven, you've already built amazing success in life and business. And it feels frustrating because you have not yet figured out how to create that same level of success in your physical well-being. And the result of that is that you feel uncomfortable in your own body and you would love to lose weight for the last time. You would love to end emotional eating without giving up your favorite foods or spending hours in the gym, no matter how busy your schedule is. And even, I should say, no matter, because most of us have failed at some point in time, no matter how many times you failed to get the body you want in the past. If that is you, then comment wherever you're watching this, comment connect, or find me on social media, Facebook. I'll drop a link and send me a message and we'll talk and we'll figure out what is the right strategy for you. And if we are meant to work together, awesome. We'll talk about how to make that happen too. All right. Bye for now. Love you guys. If you also find this helpful, I would love it if you would tag somebody that you think would be helped by it, or share it with a friend, because by doing that, you help me help other people, because you may not even know them. If you're sharing or if you're commenting, it helps the social media algorithms share it with more people. And so you could not only be helping someone that you know, but you might be helping a complete stranger, a woman just like you, that will be helped, served, inspired into action for herself. You never know what a single action can do. I could talk about that too, but I'm not going to. I love you guys. Bye for now.